Hey guys, it's me, Big Jack 24 here, and today we're going to be reacting to the American Revolutionary War, Part 1 by Oversimplified. And before we even begin the video, I do want to say that I'm taking I'm taking none of this as my own. All the copyright does belong to Oversimplified. And anyways, let's begin. So, if you're wondering, yes, this is a pre-recorded video since I will be busy on Thursday, so and Friday's video would be posted later on July 2nd. You're going to see why a little bit later on, I believe, in this video. Anyways, let's begin.
Holy smokes! Christopher Columbus, that is no way to address the King and Queen of Spain.
Yeah, that's true.
Wrong with you. Okay, so you know how we're looking for a new trade route to India, right? Right. And the Earth is round, right? Right. So I'm thinking we can just sail the other way around the planet, right? Yeah. So I set sail, right? Mm-hmm. And I reach India, right? Right. Wrong.
He did not reach India. At first they thought that he did, but now he just went into the Caribbean.
Wrong. I did not reach India. I did not. Alright, get to the point. Did you know there's a whole nother freaking continent out there? Okay, and you think I should care about this? Why? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I forget to mention there's gold everywhere?
Oh yes, very powerful time for gold.
Columbus landed in Central America in October 1492, and he had the time of his life. And by that I mean he went on a huge theft and murder spree. He stole gold, jewelry, people, and a hammock. And then he returned to show off all of his riches, including a few previously undiscovered items, such as tobacco, the pineapple, turkeys, and a hammock. Now I know what you're thinking, but oversimplified, Columbus didn't discover America, the Vikings did.
And that is correct.
You'd be partially right. In the 11th century, Leif Erikson was the first European to land in America. But hey, if you love Vikings so
Yes, Newfoundland, Canada, which I'm pretty sure it's right here. It's been a while since I actually checked on Canadian geology. Not the locations of Canada's provinces. Sorry, Canada. I don't know that many provinces of yours, so yeah, the only one that I do know is Quebec, and that's just around this area, I believe. Because I need more of a political map to see where the actual design is. Oh wait, so Montreal would just be right there, so there. Oh yeah, this will be Quebec.
then why don't you check out today's sponsor?
I'm gonna
Vikings War
skip
of
his
Clans is a mobile
sponsorship.
game that was inspired by the famous strategy and
There.
after
So pretty much, I'm just gonna go back a tiny bit. I just gonna skip his ads.
oh yeah, Columbus, time of his life, hammock. And suddenly the race was on to explore.
Yeah, so pretty much what happened here was that the French went through the area of Quebec, which is where the French actually kept their stuff. The British landed there, and the Dutch were actually the first to go to New York. Well, they did call New York originally New Amsterdam, and they used to speak a lot of Dutch there, and then due to a trade deal, like the British were able to convince the Dutch to, give them that territory for it to go away. Well, Spain is still trying to conquer more stuff.
Conquered the New World. After a couple centuries of warring with the natives and each other, the European powers had claimed quite a lot of land, including this area, which both the English and the French claimed as theirs. One day the French said, I'm gonna build some forts along here, and the English were like, could you not? And the French said, sorry, but no, I could not. And they went.
So this is how the 7 Years' War begins, I believe. I'm not very clear with the 7 Years' War, but I do know that this is one of the major reasons.
And built their forts, which pissed off the English, so they sent an up-and-coming British lieutenant colonel by the name of George Washington with a combined force of British troops and Native Americans. After a short battle, the French commander said, all right, we surrender. Okay, boys, pack it up. They're surrendered. Oh, sorry, was I not meant to split his head open with a tomahawk? Don't worry, it's not like this will start a 7-year-long major global conflict. And what
happened next was a 7 year long major global conflict.
And next was a 7-year-long major global conflict, which Great Britain won.
And unfortunately, it went into severe financial debt.
Negotiations, Spain gave up Florida, while France gave up
I do want to go all the way back to
long major global conflict.
thing.
And what happened next was a 7-year-long major.
So pretty much Portugal is controlling these colonies, colonies as Brennan's controlling the areas of Canada here and what would eventually become the east coast of the United States here. And while Portugal and Prussia, yeah, that's Prussia right there, and Prussia got to show, well, pretty much got to show Austria and I believe the remnants or leftover bits of the Holy Roman Empire. No, wait, was that the Holy Roman Empire still there, or was that, or am I thinking of the Napoleonic Wars when the Holy, or am I thinking of a different time when the Holy Roman Empire fell? Now, I don't know, but I do know that this is where 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 Frederick the Great actually got to kick some Austrian butt out of there, and so pretty much France and England had a huge skirmish about India. Guess who won? Guess who won that skirmish? Or thing? Britain. And who's in severe debt now? Britain.
Conflict, which Great Britain won. At the peace negotiations, Spain gave up Florida, while France gave up all of its territories in North America. But Britain's victory came at a cost, a £60 million cost.
Oh wow, that is a large thing.
Now broke, in a lot of debt, and had to come up with some way to repay it. So they went to the colonies and said, okay, listen up. So a huge part of the war was spent protecting you from the French, and now we have no money because of it. So I'm not sure what you're saying here.
Yeah, this is still America today, other besides for the fight against communism, which we're able to give off plenty of money. Plenty of money. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that's what we did in the what act was it? Alright, because I just had in my head it would come to me later, but oh, it's the Marshall Plan. The Marshall Plan. It just swept my mind. Is there we were able to spend a lot of money to help repair Western Europe.
So we spent a lot of money protecting you from the French, right? Right. And now we're broke. That certainly is a pickle. Listen to me. We spent all of our money protecting you, and now we need money. Can you please pay us back some money? No.
Honest answer. That would still be no.
Okay, we're just gonna go ahead and tax you.
No. This is how taxes became the enemy of the British while fighting this war.
1864, Britain introduced the Sugar Act, forcing the colonists to import sugar and molasses exclusively from the British and to pay duties on them. Then a year later, they introduced the extremely controversial Stamp Act, and it worked a little something like this. Hello, shopkeep. Hello, Mr. Bungleberry. Here's the deed for your new shack. Stamp. That'll be 3 pence, please. Wait, what was that? It's the new tax. I get a stamp on any paper or documentation I make, and you have to pay for it. Would you like to see this pamphlet that explains everything? Yes, please. Okay. Stamp. 2 pence, please. This is awful. You know what? Just give me a deck of cards so I can go gamble my pain away. Okay.
No, don't stamp it. Don't stamp it.
No. Don't do it. Stamp.
No. What a monster.
Obviously, the...
Aw, come on. I don't need a World of Warship inspired game.
Emperor, or will you spill more blood for the Blood God?
Well, I'm sorry, I don't believe in God, so this is hard choice. I don't care world ships.
Colonists were like, hey my dudes, this new tax legislation right here, this is BS. Until now they had enjoyed relative freedom to rule themselves, and now suddenly Britain was asserting its control. They were especially unhappy because they didn't have any representatives in the parliament that was
Oh yeah, so pretty much if they had no representatives in parliament, this is how America sort of went outrage.
taxes on them. So they protested. Orators gave fiery speeches. British goods were boycotted, and anyone loyal to the British found themselves increasingly harassed.
Yeah, the oil and the fetters, yeah. Or was it tar and fetters? No, wait, it was tar and fetters, not oil and fetters. That's my bad.
The whole thing actually began to take quite a toll on British business, and after just a couple years, the British were forced to repeal the Stamp Act. But we still desperately need money. What should we do? We could try taxing the colonies. Great idea. Wait, didn't we literally just try that and it failed miserably? Man, look at me.
Very smart king for doing that.
I look fabulous. Have you ever seen such a handsome boy? No siree, Georgie. No way. You're the handsomest, smartest, most popular king that ever lived, and everybody likes you. You're doing
Not really.
such a good job. Your Majesty? Oh, you're still here. Get the hell out. So in 1766, the British made a declaration saying, we can do what we want because we're in charge and you can all go suck it. Then they levied a whole bunch of new taxes on the Americans via import duties. Glass? There's a tax for that. Lead? There's a tax for that. Paper? Tea? Oil? There's a tax for that. And once
Yep, definitely taxes.
the Americans boycotted British goods, British business felt the pinch, and the British had to back down. Alright, this is ridiculous. They're my colonies, and I have to be able to assert my control. Repeal all the new taxes except for the one on tea. Also send 1,000 troops to Boston to take control. Oh, and make the colonists pay for them. And as British troops arrived, the tension in Boston was palpable. You could cut it with a knife, and it was all about to come to a head. On March 5th, a band of local patriots began heckling a British guard at the customs house. More and more Americans joined in the heckling, while more British troops turned up in support of their comrade. Snowballs were thrown at the British. The snowballs turned to rocks, the rocks to oyster shells. The soldiers
Yeah, oyster shells are worse than rocks. It's been a while since anyone thrown an oyster shell at me. I mean 5 years.
outnumbered, panicked. One thing leads to another, and you can see where this is going. 5 civilians were killed. The Patriot press throughout the colonies declared the Boston Massacre an unwarranted crime committed against the people of Boston by the cruel British, and the anger continued to grow. A British revenue schooner that ran aground in Rhode Island was burned by the locals. When it came to light that the governor of Massachusetts supported the suppression of the colonists, his house was burned by the locals. And next,
Very good job.
the colonists would set their sights on the remaining tax on tea. On December 16, 1773, a band of patriots known as the Sons of Liberty, disguised themselves as Native Americans, marched down to Boston Harbor, boarded
Oh yes, this is the part of Boston Tea Party that I believe that some Americans don't notice. I know that some do, some don't. Some don't. Don't get mad at me, but still, like, some people don't know that on how we actually dumped the tea was that, as he's explaining it here, as the Sons of Liberty disguised themselves as Native Americans, which is what happened, and this is how we managed to piss off one of the biggest empires of all time and won.
British merchant ship loaded with tea, and in front of thousands of spectators, threw nearly 10,000 pounds worth of tea overboard.
If you did that with vodka in Russia, I'm pretty sure Russia would have enough anger to go at you and try to destroy you.
British were disgusted, and they punished Massachusetts with a vengeance. They dissolved its General Assembly, revoked their charter, and sent 3,000 more troops to occupy the city, meaning Boston and
Why
Massachusetts.
do I keep getting ads? Like, I see the ads here. It's like I don't want to see them. Like,
Were
seriously.
now essentially under the direct rule of Great Britain.
Why do I keep getting ads?
Play War Thunder now. Join
No.
millions of
Why
players
do I
across
keep
the
getting
globe
these
in massive
ads?
battles
No.
on tanks.
No.
Britain. And oh boy, were the people pissed. The other colonies saw what was happening and worried they might be next. So they called a brain trust to decide what to do. 56 delegates from 12 colonies gathered and met in Philadelphia at the First Continental Congress, and the roll call read like a who's who of America's finest thinkers. I'm talking lawyers extraordinaire Johnny A. and Johnny J.,
Yep. John Adams and John Jay.
experienced military commander George Washington,
Yep.
businessman and future alcoholic beverage Samuel Adams,
Yeah, that's true.
Harry orator Patty H., guy who married a rich lady, Big Dickinson. And while they weren't present at the first Congress, soon names like James Madison, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and much later Alexander Hamilton would all serve time in the Continental Congress. The question now, though, was what to do about the British. After much bitter debate and disagreement, they eventually agreed on an amazing solution. They would simply ask the British to stop. Can you stop? No. It didn't work. Okay, then tell the local militias to start arming and be ready at a minute's notice. And across the
This is how the Minutemen were created.
colonies, these Minutemen stood ready for the beginning of the American Revolutionary War. Now, having your colonies in open rebellion is one thing. Once they start arming themselves, that's when it really hits the fan. So,
Yeah.
British General Thomas Gage ordered 700 troops from Boston out into the rebel-controlled Massachusetts countryside to destroy stores of arms and ammunition held by the rebels in Concord. The British set out in the middle of the night. Patriots, including Paul Revere, rode ahead
Wait, what? Let me see.
in the middle of the night. Patriots, including
Wait. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that sort of does look like Jack Black. Wow. Is it my glasses? Oh, well, no, that does look like Jack Black.
Rode ahead to warn that the British were coming, giving the rebels time to prepare. The two sides met in Lexington as the sun began to rise. They faced off against each other, and in the confusion, somebody shot first. The shot heard around the world marked the beginning of the
Yeah, and it's where Britain had officially met its worst enemy during this era, other besides France.
War of Independence. The rebels were outnumbered and had to fall back to Concord as the British split up to search for rebel supplies. However, more and more Patriot rebels kept showing up, and this time it was the British who were outnumbered as more fighting kicked off in Concord. The most professional army in the world was forced to flee back to Boston at the hands of local, poorly trained militiamen, and all along the British route back to Boston, Patriot rebels continued to gather and open fire on the retreating British. When the
Oh, wow. When you know you have the world's largest army and world's largest and best army, and all of a sudden you're getting beaten up by local farmers and local people, then you know it's really starting to be bad. It's like nothing that I've never heard of. Again, Vietnam War. Again. It ain't something that I never heard of.
British reached Boston, the rebel militias surrounded them. Boston and the British were now under siege as small land and naval skirmishes continued around the city. And the British would suffer another embarrassing blow, this time in upstate New York. Colonel Benedict Arnold concocted a plan to take the British stronghold Fort Ticonderoga, which held a large amount of guns and ammunition. He set off towards the fort alone, hoping to recruit men along the way, when he came across the Green Mountain Boys, led by Ethan Allen, who, as it turned out, had the exact same plan he did. So they
Wow. What a
decided to work
coincidence.
together. But I'm in charge. No, I'm in charge. No, I'm in charge. No, I'm in charge. No,
This is gonna be the longest battle I've ever seen.
I'm in charge. No, I'm in charge. No, I'm in charge. This went on
So
for
childish.
some time, until the Green Mountain Boys threatened to go home and Arnold had to concede. The group raided the fort at night while the Redcoats were asleep, and they caught them completely by surprise, taking the fort and all of its munitions with almost no resistance. Wow, great job, Ethan. Very impressive. By the way, what happened to that other guy we sent to take the fort? Who? Benedict Arnold.
I
Never heard of
see. I keep getting ads. Why do I keep getting ads? It's like I don't want to know that I have ads.
Ouch.
I hate and love telling people that they got the Congress they voted for.
All right, I'm not going to listen to a TV show ad or whatever that was. That was, as I'm here to be reacting to the American Revolutionary War, not that.
What the fuck? Nobody knew what was going on. The colonies were in open rebellion, and for now, they even seemed to be winning. So King George fired General Gage, replaced him with General William Howe, and ordered the rebellion to be put down immediately. Okay, the British are definitely going to retaliate for all of this, so we should probably put together a proper army. First, we need to pick a commander-in-chief, and I think we can all agree that that job should go to the man, the myth, the legend, George Washington. My friends, I am humbled and honored that you would consider me for...
Cut the crap, George. We all know that you wanted this. And besides, I believe you're the only one there that's actually been through battles, but you've done some very bad things that I'm going to be criticizing because let's face it, is you're not just a humble man, as we all know.
Important role. I did not expect for this. All right, you've been showing up in a military uniform every day for the last 10 months. We all know you wanted this, so cut the crap, George.
Well said.
Dude. Uncool. So Washington began his journey up to Boston to take command of the newly established Continental Army, just as the British made their first major attempt.
Yes, this is, I believe, the Continental Army's flag. But you can see later that they would drop the Union Jack entirely and just place some stars up into order to represent the states.
Break the siege. They made plans to take the high ground on Bunker Hill, but spies warned the Continentals of the British plans, so they fortified Bunker Hill and set up defensive positions on nearby Breed's Hill. The day of the battle came, and as the British advanced, a barrage of Continental gunfire was opened up on them. Twice they tried to climb the hill, twice they were pushed back. The battle lasted 3 hours until the Continentals finally ran out of ammunition and had to retreat, allowing the British to take the hill. While technically a British victory, they suffered nearly 1,000 casualties to the Continentals' 400.
Wow. What a heavy cost. Now I can see why the British have so many, are willing to risk so many men in the Somme Battle of World War I or Gallipoli. Yeah. I'm sorry, Brennan, if I just took a humongous jab at you, but yeah, we all know. We all know. We all knew. We all knew that you weren't going to be expecting me to make that reference, but we all knew that I was going to do it. If you did not expect me to do it, then you were mistaken. I was going to do it.
This showed the British that this wasn't just a rebellion, it was war, and they were ready for it. But one thing they weren't sure about was why they were fighting. Well, some radicals were starting to throw around the I word, most
Meaning independence.
to eventually repair their relationship with Great Britain. So they sent a letter to King George saying, "Hey man, looks like things aren't going your way. Remove the taxes and let's be friends. I'm gonna kick your ass." Send that to the colonies. Your Majesty, your handwriting is terrible. Are you sure? Just do it. What does it say? He's gonna lick my...
Gross. Yeah, that's gross. I know you guys can't see it, but I'm making a grossed out face since, like, this is weird. Since you're having a king who just essentially said that he's going to be trying to kick your ass, but then you receive it where it said that he's going to lick it, and yeah, that you can see where it's weird. It's weird.
Gross.
Why do I keep getting these
Over
ads?
the last 2 months, I've lost
No.
20 pounds, which blows my
Come
mind.
on.
After 3 months, I've actually
Stop
lost.
hitting me with ads, YouTube. I'm literally sick and tired of it. It's like I came here to escape ads. I don't need ads.
So for the remainder of the year, small engagements continued to occur around the colonies. The British burned down the towns of Falmouth, Massachusetts, and Norfolk, Virginia.
Yeah, so if you're wondering why Maine was called Massachusetts at the time, and why he called this Massachusetts and not Maine, well, during the right before the American Civil War, Maine was actually part of Massachusetts and later became its own state, you know? Yeah, something just happened. I'll be right back. Yeah, my door just got opened. So I had to go close it. Close it.
As revenge for earlier anti-British incidents. These actions played right into the hands of patriot propaganda. Overseas, the British were seen as brutes, and the French and Spanish would soon begin sending supplies to the rebel cause. During this time, there was also minor fighting going on between patriot and loyalist militias in the southern colonies. Benedict Arnold was still on a mission to win some personal glory for himself, so he headed up an attempt to invade Canada in a two-pronged attack. The Continentals managed to capture some British forts and the city of Montreal, but a harsh snowstorm with some smallpox on the side saw them defeated and pushed back at Quebec City, and they were forced to retreat all the way to Fort Ticonderoga. Speaking of which, remember all those guns and ammunition? Well, this guy's got a plan for what to do with them. He uses oxen to drag 120,000 pounds of artillery for 2 months through the harsh winter, 300 miles all the way to Washington and his Continental Army surrounding Boston. Boom. Washington's got himself some big guns, which is fortunate because up until now his army had been suffering through the cold winter, not knowing when the siege would end. Now, they could make a move. Washington wanted to launch a full assault on the city, but his junior officers felt the British were too fortified, and to his credit, Washington was great at hearing and taking on board the ideas of others.
Unlike other extreme dictators, mainly the main one that you guessed I'm probably thinking of is Adolf Hitler. But even though Hitler was more like, I was criticized on this by one commenter in my World War II video, and also, yes, and I do apologize. I did not mean to seem like I was trying to make fun of Russia while I was saying that the Russians use winter as an helpful advantage. No, it's just that the Russians are better at surviving in the winter. Well, let's face it. The Siberian winter is freezing and harsh, and usually no one's ready for it. So yeah, I'm sorry about that. If I did make that clear, I'm sorry that you're hearing this apology here. I completely forgot about that until I just heard the winter. Yeah, this is my...
The Continentals worked through the night, setting the guns up on Dorchester Heights, overlooking the city. And when dawn broke and the British saw the guns, they knew they were toast. Their positions were completely exposed. It was checkmate. They had no choice but to abandon the city. 120 ships carried 9,000 redcoats and 2,000 loyalists away to an unknown fate. And Washington.
Wait, can someone in the comments tell me what's believed to have been their fate? Their fate, since I'm not really that certain about what happened to them.
Had his first victory of the war. Washington then moved his army to New York, knowing that when the British returned, they would probably land there. In the meantime, a friendly-looking old man by the name of Thomas Paine had written and published a pamphlet called Common Sense, in which he advocated
Don't eat yellow snow, it's just common sense. That's correct.
for total independence from Great Britain. It spread across.
Yeah, believe it or not, I do have Common Sense, the book, but I never read the Common Sense, and I never read Common Sense. It's just common sense not to read Common Sense, because you already know it's common sense. If I just confused you, well, congratulations.
Colonies like wildfire, and to this day remains the best-selling title in America. It was
Proportional to population? I'm pretty sure.
Out in taverns and meeting halls and brought the idea of independence into the mainstream. Congress began to seriously consider the idea. Thomas Jefferson was selected to write up an official Declaration of Independence, and he
He's only selected because he had better handwriting than everyone else.
hard, writing that all men are created equal, with certain inalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Of course, Jefferson had over 100 slaves, but we don't have to talk about that.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, he did actually write something about slaves weren't bad, that slavery was bad, but at the same time as he wrote this as a final draft, they had to take out the thing about slavery because they were scared that they were going to lose the southern states, which could have eventually broke out into an all-out civil war during the Revolutionary War, which would have ended badly for all sides.
On the 2nd of July, Congress voted unanimously in favor of independence, and John Adams declared that the 2nd of July would go down as the most remembered day in American history.
No, it's now known to my Canadian brethren as their Independence Day, as they got their freedom on the 2nd of July from the British, while America, it got it on the 4th. And you can see why now I'm doing this video, and it's going to be posted on the 2nd of July. You can see why I'm doing that now.
A couple days later, independence actually came into effect. The United States of America was born. There was no turning back now. The Americans tore down a statue of King George in New York and melted him down into 42,000 musket balls. To the British, it was treason, and if the king had his way, Washington and all of Congress would be hung. Speaking of the British, guess who's back?
It's us.
The king sent an intimidating force of 130 warships and 25,000 men to New York. Washington knew that taking on the most powerful military in the world wouldn't be easy. The British set up camp on Staten Island as the Americans dug into defensive positions around Brooklyn Heights, waiting for an attack to come. But the British just waited, wearing down their opponent's nerve while building their own strength. At one point, they launched a big scary artillery barrage and then said, you know, if I was you right now, I'd probably sue for peace. But Washington told them to shove it. The Americans kept holding out for what was coming, and when they finally hit, they hit hard. 15,000 British troops approached the American position, and the two sides fired on each other in massive rows. But what the Americans didn't realize was they were only fighting a decoy. The main British force was going around to flank the Americans from behind.
Oh yes, this is how most battle strategies work. You gotta flank your enemy by behind, you pretty much take down most of the army. Well, or you can do a better flanking strategy, which is called the Horns of the Bull, which was invented by Shaka Zulu, which is where you have your main army in one position, you have your other armies like straight up around your opponent, and your opponent will be more focused on your main army, while you have the side armies going to outflank the other armies, destroying it.
They arrived, they inflicted heavy casualties. The Americans panicked and retreated back to Brooklyn Heights, where they then found themselves trapped between the British Army and the river. It looked as though the war was already lost, but luckily, instead of attacking, the British decided to dig in for a siege, and then...
Why would the British dig in for a siege? Like, this is the one thing I don't get. So like instead of a siege, go and actually destroy the army. Because for all you know, their main general is there. If you do that, kill the general, boom. Boom. That brings out some that can go very well for your propaganda, but no, you just had to go into a siege. And very lucky for Washington and his crew that thick fog happened to settle in and they all got away. But they at least survived an encounter with the British, and you're about to see the most wildest goose chase you would ever see.
Fog set in, allowing Washington's army to escape across the river unimpeded. The British continued to chase and engage the Americans at Manhattan, and the Americans suffered defeat after defeat after defeat. It was a disaster. Washington's leadership was called into question, as thousands of American POWs were left to rot as traitors. Washington's army fled through New Jersey, all the way down to Pennsylvania. Rarely had an army been so badly beaten, yet survived to fight another day.
And that is true. And part 2 would be coming out on the 4th of July. As I will be personally be not reacting to it on the 4th of July, as I have to go to a lot of parties on that day. So I'll be seeing you guys in the next video, and all the copyright does belong to Oversimplified. And I am sorry about the ads that keep on showing up throughout the video. I am really sorry about that because I have no control over the ads, and I just thought I wouldn't be hit with many ads as I was before. Anyways, goodbye.